What's up, everybody? It's Colton for MMOHuts.com, and today I am here with...
Rory.
Yes, also known as Dry Bear. And you are...
I'm the Realm Royale brand director.
Yes. And what exactly does that entail, brand direction?
So for us, it's actually not the typical job description of brand director. When we split our studios into the three and kind of let the game teams focus mostly on the games they're working on, we kind of tried to find a way to split the roles properly. So we have a technical director, which handles most of the technical aspects of the game. You have art director, which handles the art and the creation of it. So we have a lot of, Iris is known for all of our art, right? We make so many cosmetics and so many different characters that we need that process there. And then brand director picks up what's left. So brand director obviously normally handles vision and strategy and just the general product and making sure everything is on brand and you're building an IP. But tacked onto that, as is probably not too surprising for me, is going to be game design, level design, user experience, live updates, and things like that. So it focuses kind of on both sides of that, but it brings in kind of the overall strategy for the product.
Right. And now, Realm Royale had the big announcement of closed beta for Xbox at the Hi-Res Presents presentation. If I haven't gotten that wrong, have I?
No, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
yeah.
We definitely did.
You're good.
So that's obviously very exciting. Now, I know porting games, from the limited things I know about software design, that's what more or less what my degree is in, so, or what I'm finishing my degree in. Porting things from one platform to another can be a bit of a nightmare. So Xbox is coming. It's in closed. It's in closed beta now?
Closed beta now.
Yeah. Are there any tentative plans for other consoles?
So there definitely is going to be a focus on that at some point, right? The reason that we start with PC almost always for our games is because the platform is very dynamic and very quick, right? So like if we wanted to release a bunch of patches in one day, we can move very quickly, right? And if a patch is ready on PC, we can ship it if we want.
Right.
The big challenge with going to the third party with Sony, Microsoft, and PS4 and Xbox is there's a long and lengthy certification process that goes with each build. And so if we want to launch a build, sometimes it can take 1 to 3 weeks before we're able to put it on the platform because they want to make sure that there's a quality there, and so they want to look at it before we release it. So we try to go to PC first to kind of get the core game right, iterate very quickly, and get feedback from players very quickly. Then we'll move to PS4 and Xbox because there's a process there we've figured out, and then we move through that certification process. And then other platforms like Nintendo Switch have a completely different set of requirements. Nintendo Switch also is, because it's very portable, doesn't have the same technical power as some of the other hardware machines, and so that requires a different set of efforts. So we're going to focus on Xbox and PS4, make sure those are really, really good. Then as things grow into next year, we would consider other platforms.
Okay, cool. And since you've got Xbox One and you've got PC, both able to play the game, is there plans for Realm Royale to fall under the umbrella of the one account, all platforms initiative? And does that mean you also intend for cross-platform play for Realm Royale?
So we're actually the first high-res game to have cross-platform play. Right now, if you went and played on Xbox, you could play with PC players, so that is actually active. Obviously, if there is another platform that would like to do cross-play with us, we are technically ready to do that.
Maybe you should at them on Twitter.
But,
yeah, we're not saying at Sony on Twitter, but like, let's be real.
Of those three, if there was another platform that would like to do crossplay with us, we would be very easily able to support that. We're ready to support it now. So there is crossplay between Xbox and PC right now.
Right.
When we go to PS4, we're hoping to have at least crossplay between PS4 and PC. And then that all depends on how that goes. And we will be able to support cross-platform as well of progression. So that means that when you purchase something or unlock something on one of the platforms, you go to a different one and it would show up there as well. And so we have all that rolling. That's all part of the high-res publishing efforts, and that will unlock for all of our titles.
Fantastic. Now, it's kind of been Hi-Res's legacy to have their games relentlessly compared to other games in the same genre. When Smite was beginning, it was League of Legends, Heroes of New Earth, Dota were the points of comparison. When Paladins came out,
really, Heroes of New Earth?
It used
not,
to be
not to throw shade, but not to throw shade.
But those games, you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Like people will compare it to anything. When Paladins came out, it was Overwatch, and to a much lesser extent, Team Fortress 2. And now, you know, Realm Royale, obviously people are going to draw the connections between it and Fortnite, or
PUBG.
at least, and PUBG. Obviously, you guys have become very skilled at, like, illustrating and differentiating yourself from those, I don't want to call them brand leaders, because that sounds like some retail, like, buzzwordage, but... Yeah, so...
Other games in the genre.
Yeah,
There you go.
What would you say to people who maybe are familiar with Fortnite because they've seen it literally everywhere, but are looking at Realm Royale as an alternative? What would be the one thing that you would say they need to see in Realm Royale to really understand what it's all about and what separates it?
I don't think there is one thing, because I think the combat and experience will be built upon something that they are familiar with. So, you know, if they've played third-person shooters before, there's going to be a lot there that are recognizable. But what differentiates Realm Royale from any other battle royale on the market is the class system is going to be the biggest one. So you're not just playing one generic soldier, you are picking a specific class that is adept at doing different things.
Warrior is best class. Don't let anybody tell you different.
There's a good example.
That's
right
a weird
there.
way to say engineer, but you know.
Engineer's not a thing.
Is it gone?
It's gone for now.
Oh, rip
And so,
engineer.
the class system, which is
It had to be
specifies your
removed 'cause it was
loot,
too
changes the
OP.
weapons you have, changes the abilities you have, and you can specify your playstyle. There's also going to be the downed mechanic with the chicken, and so instead of being downed and being helpless, you actually are downed and you turn into a chicken, and then you'll
And you actually move
auto-revive.
kind of quickly,
You
like
do.
when you're a chicken.
You can move through windows. You can jump through, jump off balconies and hide.
It's
and
my
then
favorite thing to do is
at
run
the end
through
of the
windows.
timer, you'll actually auto revive. So someone doesn't have to come pick you up while you're bleeding. You actually have some agency there that allows you to move around and self revive.
If I recall correctly, if someone does get to you, though, they can help you revive, right?
Nope.
No? Okay.
It's all
You just
self.
gotta wait it out.
Yep.
You just got to tough it out.
Wait it
Okay.
out.
But there are skins for the chickens,
Yes.
which is cool.
Yes.
They're very cool skins for the chickens.
All right. What are, or rather, let me start this question over. So with some games, like, again, I'm gonna do the bad thing and say Fortnite. Like, they've been doing a lot of events, you know, even high-res games, to draw a comparison across the table, across high-res's own table. Like Paladins, you've got lots of events. You've got lots of events in Smite. Are there plans to do more of that in the future for Realm Royale, like to start introducing big events?
Absolutely. I think it's just a stage of the project, right? Because we are technically currently in alpha. And so, although we got all these players and there's big eyes on it, it is a game that's still in alpha. And so our focus was on the core foundation of the game to make sure that the experience was right, playing felt really good, the core loop of jumping into a match and fighting enemies and collecting loot and winning the game was exactly what it should be. And then when we transition out of that into a beta state, that's when we focus on more of the engagement aspects, adding more content, adding more ways to engage with the game, new weapons, new classes, events that make you kind of feel excited about what's going on and keeping the game fresh, right? It's just a matter of prioritization and where the game is at.
Sure. And you had a question you wanted to run, didn't you? You had a couple questions.
Way to put me on the spot. The only thing I really had is originally it was a Paladins game, and it was where you had the Paladins characters running around.
Yeah.
And while I do miss being Torvald and ulting people back into the Doom Cloud, it became its own game. Is the lore still attached to the Paladins world?
No, so Realm Royale is going to be its own IP. There's obviously going to be DNA from Paladins in there, since a lot of it kind of was inspired or pulled from Paladins. But it is going to start building its own universe separate.
Certainly in terms of aesthetic, there's a lot of connection there. But that's okay. I like consistency in art style.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any plans right now? And this is going to be a lot of, obviously since the game is still in alpha, a lot of people are curious about the future of the game. Are there any plans for more classes?
So that's a very interesting question. It's something we want to be careful on. One of the reasons why we pulled the engineer out is because there wasn't enough just general identity between the classes and how they functioned. So there's going to be a question of, is this a many classes game, or is this a few amount of classes with a lot of abilities and weapons, right? And how that works with the loot and how that works with the disenchanting and forging is a question we have to keep testing on, because obviously if there were 20 classes in the game and then all of a sudden you're having to find very specific loot, and then you also have the issue of the people you run into are then less and less likely to be your class, which means less and less likely to drop your loot. So there's a lot of things that play into that for this kind of game, since it is a very kind of restrictive game. So obviously we have a lot of classes that we're thinking about or have talked about before, but there's just a design question of, is it better for the game to have fewer or more?
Right. That definitely makes sense. And then finally, something that we talked about in a previous interview today that I feel like is applicable across all of the high-res games, the word monetization that you mentioned earlier, a lot of, that's a really hot-button issue in the gaming community at large right now. It makes a lot of people very nervous when you look at companies like Electronic Arts and some of the downright disrespectful things that have been pulled in the realm of...
We'll just say certain mobile gaming companies.
Yeah, that have been pulled in the name of monetization, cutting back content that was once compulsory, that kind of thing. A lot of people get nervous when they hear people start throwing around words like monetization. Obviously, Hi-Rez has a very cosmetic-focused monetization model, which has worked very well so far. A lot of people seem really happy with all the cool skins. What is your attitude as brand manager, or what is your strategy moving forward to make sure that players are happy with the monetization options that are in the game, and that to keep them from becoming what could be considered problematic?
So I think it's good to speak very honestly on the topic there, because obviously at the end of the day, we are a business, and we do have employees that would love to have a salary and food and a way to feed their families, and have
I am very fond of
medical
food.
benefits so they can take care of their kids and their spouses and things like that, right? So, we can't just give everything away for free. We have to find, hopefully, very like common ground ways that we can give them something that they want, and in the same way it allows us to sustain a business at the same time.
Right.
So that's kind of where monetization comes from, right? There's different ways to attack it, but at the end of the day, we can't do everything for free. Otherwise, we would stop making games because we can't afford to pay anybody to do it.
Right.
For us, obviously, we historically have always been a very fair company. We want to make sure that we have, if you're spending money, it should feel really good to spend it. It should be like, hey, I really wanted this thing, or I'm so happy that I was able to get this, or it felt like I need to get this because it's so cool, right? So we will have ways for players to kind of purchase cosmetics and unlock different things in the game. How that will look, I think will evolve a little bit as we move into the beta state. We'll still have the normal things you expect from high-res games, where you'll have packs you can unlock, specific events that give you cool new content,
Battle
focus
pass,
on battle passes, things like that. And we are very content focused, and as we move into the future, that's going to be kind of our primary, but we'll still run experiments along the way to see if there's ways that we can introduce things that players really like and enjoy.
Right. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, because obviously you are a business. Like, just speaking as the average game player,
sure.
Like, when I play a game that's free to play, if I'm having fun with it, I definitely want to financially support it. Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, I've pumped more hours into Path of Exile than I care to count, and probably more dollars than I care to count. But, that's kind of the thing. And it's like, I think the big concern that some people might have is making sure that, obviously Hi-Rez has a very no pay-to-win stance. And I think people want to make sure that that's going to be, in the future, maintained, which I'm positive that it is. But
no, we never want it to feel like for every dollar you spend, you're X amount stronger than someone else, right? And there's always going to be some competitive aspects that work in those systems and some that don't. It's hard for me to say that everything we release is going to be non gameplay affecting. It's always our goal, but it is what it is, right? We just kind of focus on it. We're always focused on content, and I think that the takeaway should be more that when you spend the money, it feels really good, and you shouldn't feel like because someone is wealthier than you, they have a better opportunity or more of an advantage on you in the game. That's always going to be the focus. I think it's a great comparison to say that when you go watch a movie, it's a 2-hour movie and you spend $10, right? So movie makers are charging you $5 an hour to be entertained. When you play a game and you play it for 1,000 hours, that would be $5,000 you'd have to spend to be entertained for that long. Right?
Yeah.
So try to compare it to that, and that's how movie makers make their money, is they charge you up front for this experience, this entertainment that you're having. It's going to be the same for games. It's just, it's one of those things where we have to kind of be a little bit, careful not to affect the experience because of the money. That's always going to be our goal.
Yeah, it's a tightrope to walk. You know, but you guys have, I mean, with Paladins, you've threaded the needle. With Smite, you've threaded the needle. So, like, I think...
Well, I think all of our games have been completely fair. There's nothing
Yeah,
in those
that's what I'm
games that
saying.
affect your game. So I wouldn't even say threading the needle. I think we've been very honest and
Okay,
fair.
you kicked it
You're
straight
right.
through the uprights.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we did. Yeah, I mean, I think it's more about having that experience and having new ways to unlock things in the game. And obviously, you know, if I spend $100, I do want to feel like I spent $100.
Yeah.
I feel really cool, right? And I think that shouldn't make me stronger than you, but I want to feel cool, right?
Yeah, it should make you look cooler than me.
Yeah.
Certainly, at the very least.
So when you
You
get
can't, you can't fight crime if you ain't cute. That's the law.
Well, I mean, like a tier 5 skin is a great example, right?
Yeah.
If you get Archon Thanatos or you get the Ragnarok Thor,
you want to feel like a
you
badass.
feel awesome, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's just relative to what you're engaging with, but it doesn't affect someone else's experience. You just want to feel like you can showboat a little bit.
Right, yeah. Definitely. And then, of course, I have one more question for you, and then we'll go ahead and wrap things up. I don't want to take too much of your time. So we're talking a lot about the future of Realm Royale and those kind of things. There was a competitive event this weekend, I believe, for it, the first
Founders Tournament.
Yeah, Founders Tournament. Do you anticipate? I mean, obviously, it's always the hope, but like, what's your plan or your strategy to help elevate Realm Royale as it starts to come out of alpha and into beta and into open play for everybody? What's your strategy to elevate it to the levels, or is there one in place to elevate it to the level of, say, your Smite or your Paladins scenes? With it being a one-on-one or a every man for themselves game, like, do you guys have any plans in place for that on how that might look?
Well, we did run a couple $100,000 tournaments in the summer, as well as several weekly $10,000 tournaments for all the regions. I think the challenge with Battle Royales, which I don't think anyone's gotten just right yet, is it is the first esport that's free for all. Right, most of the time it is 1 versus 1 or 5 versus 5, but that's a very binary thing, right? It's team versus team, entity versus entity. When you start getting into free-for-all, there's some questions of, say you have 3 teams that encounter each other. If 2 of those teams gang up on one team, how do you evaluate how good that third team was? Because they got knocked out, but they got knocked out because it was 8 versus 4, right? So there's a lot of questions around how you evaluate efficacy and performance in Battle Royales. There's challenges around spectating and broadcasting this huge map with 100 people on it, all having engagement all at the same time. So there's a lot of experimentation around that. We feel we had a very great starting point in the summer, and that we would calculate both your placement against your kills. And by calculating both of them, say you got 9th place, but you had 20 kills, someone got 1st place that had no kills, who's better there, right? Like, who in that situation actually got the most out of that? And we think that you can't do just placement, because then in that situation, someone who's like hid the whole time and got to last place with no kills, are they better than a person that got 20 kills but got 3rd place, right? So you have to kind of balance those two together and make sure it's overall, and then you have to play multiple games in a row. And so that's kind of the strategy that we had for the summer games. It's the same strategy we're using for the Founders Tournament here. So players will play multiple games and qualify for the finals tomorrow to win $25,000 based on their performance over multiple games and their placement plus their kills as a combination.
Right. Okay. Well, neat. It sounds like, I mean, obviously I enjoy Realm Royale. Jason and I have played it on live stream multiple times, which, by the way, if you want to check out, subscribe to this channel. We all of our live streams are backlogged on the YouTube channel. Dry Bear loves it.
I do.
Yes, it's true. And that means in addition to being ruggedly handsome, he has good taste. So,
Oh my.
yeah, I'm a real sweet talker. So that's going to do it for us. We don't want to take too much of your time. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us. I hope I wasn't too rough with the questions.
Not at all.
But yeah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Make sure you subscribe for more high-res coverage, high-res expo coverage at DreamHack Atlanta as it continues throughout the weekend. We've got a recap coming up tonight that's going to cover the Smite and Paladins matches for today, and everything else that came out of the convention floor. And we'll see you again right here on MMOHuts.